we're going to go over how to take your serial box or your serial designs in Illustrator and then map them onto the mockups that I've provided here. So if you check on the D2L under Materials and Resources, and you go under Project 1, so Materials and Resources, and then Project 1, you'll see here that I have a few things going on here. We have some examples of serials, just some design ideas in this PDF and some other things like that. But up here, up top, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 serial box mockups. And all of these kind of appear from different angles. I'll just download them each. And one thing that's nice here is that once you map your design onto one of these, it's going to go real quick to add the others here. So you don't need to map all 4 for the assignment, but I don't know, you might as well, because it'll only take you another minute here. And so under downloads, I'm just going to open up these designs here. So I'll go to open with Photoshop here. So if you want to open files in Photoshop, you can drag them onto Photoshop right there, or you can right click, open with Photoshop 2021. So I'll just open up these designs here. They're all loaded in. And so let's see here. So this is 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. So let's see here. Each of these is laid out the exact same way in terms of their folder structure. So once you know how to do this on one of these, you know how to do it on all of them. So I'm going to just go ahead and close out 2 through 4, and we'll only work on 1. And so the way that this file works here is the main thing you're going to want to change is this group that says working process right here. And so this layer right here is the background, and it's just simply a white background layer right there. And then here, if we open up this group, this is kind of where we're going to make the adjustments. The 2 areas where we're going to want to change things out are these 2 groups right here. And so if I hide those, you can see here under objects, we have just our blank box right there under objects. And right here under change object color, you can see if I zoom in, it fills in some color right here. And so you're going to want to, after you map your designs onto the box under this group, you'll want to update these colors right here. So I'll show that, but that's kind of a step that'll be coming up here. So I'm turning off the visibility of that too. And smart objects, this is the group where we're going to want to change things out. And so you can see there's a design already mapped onto this. And so how do we take our designs and then put it onto this? That's the main question here. And so if the technique that's being used here is called using smart objects. And so smart objects can be used for a lot of things here in Photoshop, but one thing that they're really helpful for is you can replace layers and have kind of like a full document within your Photoshop document here. So if I double click on this top one right here, and this is where I'm clicking, just double click there, it opens up this new tab, and it's this kind of new PSB file. And this is the front of the box here. So if I were to upload my own design into this box, it would, and then press save, it'll update and become the front of the box right here. So again, I just double clicked right here, and then it goes to this new layer. And I'm just going to draw in some squiggles here so you can kind of see how this might update. So I just drew in some squiggles on a new layer right there, and then just press File, Save. And now when I open up the document, you can see that it's replacing that here. And so all we need to do here is take your full mockup, or sorry, not your full mockup, your full design, your serial box, and then put it onto this mockup, save it, and then when you save it, it'll update onto this file right here. So super easy. If this seems complicated, that means I'm just kind of messing up and making it sound more complicated than it is here. So what size should you make your designs? For this template, each mockup is the same here, in terms of the dimensions that you're going to want to load in. And the way you can tell here is I'm on the smart object, and I can go to image and then go down to image size, and then it gives me the information I need right here. And so for the front of your box, if you make it 2175 by 2580 at 300 dpi right there, you'll be able to load in your image here and it'll fit to the edges perfectly. So those are the dimensions you want for the front. And again, that's the same whether you're using Mockup 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so let's continue that thought here. So let's look at the side of the box here. So I'll double click here. And again, I'm just kind of going back to my original object. So I just started on this one, that's the front. This one is the side panel right here. So I just double clicked right there and it opened up the smart object right here. And we can update that design and then press save and it'll update under the box. You can go to image size right here. And so we can see for the sides, and this is true for all the sides of the box except for the top of the box, is the dimension you're going to want to do in Illustrator for this design is 540 by 2580 at 300 dpi right there. And let's see, let me just write some of these down. So this, the front, so the side is 540 by 2580. Okay. Then the front, image size, oops. We're at 2175. And all of these are 300 dpi. Okay. And the last but not the least is going to be the top here. And so if I just go down to this next one, so I'm on my original serial box document here, and this should be the top. Okay, so we can see the top is divided into two here. So these are both the same smart object, and then there's a mask drawn around it for the top panel and then the bottom panel, both the top right there. So if I replace one of these, it should replace both of them. So I'll just double click here, and we go to image size again. So this is the top of the box, and we're at 2175 again by 540. So 2175, the width of the box, by 540, the depth. So here you go. So if you need the dimensions here, this is, if you need the dimensions, this is what you need right here. And if you make an Illustrator file that is 2175 by 2580 at 300 dpi for the front, 540 by 2580 for the side, 2175 by 540 at the top, and those are the only three images that you're required to kind of make to kind of load into this box here. And so let's just kind of show that. So I'm going to open up Illustrator, and I'll go File, New, and is that already correct? Let's see, 2175 by 2580, I believe that's correct for the front panel right there. So, oh, I need to be using pixels. All right, so make sure it's under pixels, right? That's what we've been counting is pixels, not any of these other measurements here. So 2175 by 2580 pixels, I'm at 300 dpi. So let's press create, and it's gonna think for a sec. And we have our document here. So just kind of filling this out to the next step here. If I go to, so we don't have anything in this document right now. And if you go to view and then show transparency grid right there. So view transparency grid, you'll click on it and you'll see that we get the alpha channel there indicating this is the same whether you're using After Effects, Illustrator, or Photoshop, any Adobe program. If you see this checkerboard, that means that there's nothing there. And so I'll just kind of hide the transparency grid. And so that doesn't change anything with the way that this file is going to export. It's just kind of peeling away the curtain and showing you what's there and what isn't. So just kind of keep that in mind right there. So to create a fill layer that kind of fills this whole thing, if you're using a lot of other artistic software, you can just do the paint bucket tool and fill it up here. But that's not going to be the way that this is going to work here in Illustrator. So what we need to do here is we need to use the rectangular tool, and I'm just going to switch this around so it'll be black, and then I'll press this to remove the stroke right there. And again, I just click on the stroke to bring it to the front, and then I press that to remove it there. And I'll just draw a box, doesn't need to be perfect right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these align buttons right here, and then the shape transform tools to get this thing to fill up the object. And so this is only going to take a second. So I just use the rectangular tool, make a box right there, go to shape, and then type in 2175 by 2580, I believe. And notice here that I have the constraint width turned off. So the constraint width, what that'll do is it'll keep it in proportion as you're scaling it up. So if I wrote in 2175 here, and I had this on, and then I typed in 2580 here, then that number would kind of jump to adjust to keep the same proportion as the box that I had originally drawn. So essentially, just when you're doing this, turn it to look like that, so that you can write in 2175 by 2580. That number is correct. And you can see here that this isn't drawn in. If we zoom in, you can tell that I don't have this thing perfectly match around the borders right there. And so that's going to be easy to fix. And so just make sure the box is selected, and then you're going to look for the horizontal align center button right there. That'll knock it to the center. Let me pull this further off so we can see what it's doing here. So align horizontally, and then we're going to press this button right here to vertically align it to the center right there. Now we have a box that's perfectly filling the document here, perfectly filling the artboard. So with this layer 2, I can lock it right there, and that way I won't drag it around by mistake. It's locked up. I'm going to give this a bit of a different color here though. So one thing I could do here is I'm going to use my swatches here. So I'm going to just to kind of pick my colors real quick, and just to remind you all, this is what the swatches icon looks like. If you don't have swatches showing up here in your interface, remember you can always customize it. You can go to window, then go down to swatches right there to open up that box or find it. So with swatches here, I'm going to click on this button right here, and then go down to the bottom under user defined, because I have some of my defaults in here. So let me just see here. So I clicked on demo. I'll just drag this on. So now I have some swatches there loaded up from that I had made before. So I can just click on this box right here. Oops, I dragged it by mistake there. You can also select the box by clicking right here. And then if I just click on the swatch, it'll change the color here. And one thing that to kind of remind you all that I love about swatches here is if I have 15 different objects drawn out here, and they're all using that swatch right there, and then later on in the project, you imagine that you've built out a whole character, a really complicated design, and then you decide, I don't know if I like purple, you know, maybe I want this to be magenta. Is I can click on this and then kind of alter my color of the swatch, and then it'll update all over the place there. And so if you update a swatch, you don't have to go in manually reloading your colors, you know, over the course of, 2 hours. You can just, it's just one button click and you got it. So I'm just pressing edit undo to bring it back, and I'm going to delete these since the point of what I was demonstrating is finished there. And I'm just going to do something really basic here for my layout here, just to kind of show you the process of creating the mockup. So we have the text tool right here. So with it, or I guess it's called the type tool. And if I click it or you press T, you get the tool active and the cursor will look like that. If you want to fill in a paragraph and you want it to fit in within a block, I recommend clicking and then dragging. And this blue box right here indicates the field in which the text will kind of fall. And by default, it writes something in Latin and fills it out for you there. You can just press delete and then start typing something of your own. And I would only do this technique that I'm showing here, drawing out the box, for kind of nutritional information on the box, like areas where there's a lot of type that you need to fill in here. And you can see right here that the type is really tiny there. So I'm going to go under my properties tab on the right. and just increase the size right there. And so that's one way you can kind of use the type tool. I'll just select it, press delete. If you're doing the logo of your box, rather than clicking and dragging, I recommend just clicking right there, just doing like a simple click rather than a click and drag, and then type something in. And here I can scale this up. You can see 72 as high as this goes, so you might need to just type in your own number here. So I'll type in 250 and press OK. And something I like about this way, where you just you don't click and drag and you just click and start typing here, is that the box forms around the text automatically right there. And so let's say you have it down here and you want to align this thing, center align this along your whole project here. I can select it. And I'm not saying the align tab's up here. That's okay. Well, I guess I can go right there. So you can find a line right here. You can also, if you have your properties window right here, you can go drag down and you can see the align properties here as well. So there's always multiple places where you can align your text here. And so I'm going to try to center align this. So I'll just click this to center align it there. And then I don't really want it center and aligned vertically. So that's it perfectly in the middle of the document. So if I want to just move it vertically but keep it centered horizontally, I can just hold down Shift with the V button. Sorry, using the V button to select it. Start dragging and hold down Shift after you start dragging, and then it'll be locked into the center there. With the text here, we can change our font, our typeface here, and you can just kind of go through and you can see that Illustrator gives us some nice previews of some typefaces here. And let's just choose this one here. So we got a script font here. Also notice that I can change the character up here. Just trying to find a font that I don't hate. Oh, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So let's just go with Kiona, and then I'll go with a bold. And I might need to realign this in the center here. So I'll go to Align and then center align it there. Okay. And so we have our typeface right there. We can also, if you find the character window, which is this icon right here with the A with a line next to it, you can find character and paragraph here to help align this and change things like the tracking and the kerning here. And so let's kind of work through that for a second here. So with Wheaties selected here, I can change the size of the font right here. I can scale it, so like stretch it vertically here. If I type 100 is kind of by the default. If I type in 125, you can see it stretch out right there. Same thing's true here, just horizontally, where we can stretch it horizontally right there. Most of the time, you're going to want to keep these at 100 and 100. It's pretty rare that I mess with these. If you do, just very slight changes will be good. We can change this font right here, I believe, is an all caps kind of font. And so there's no upper lowercase, but if you have a typeface that is more editable than this one, you can click here and get it to all caps, or you can do small caps, meaning the first case is uppercase, the other are smaller. And let's see here. And we got kerning and tracking here. So kerning's currently set to auto. And if I'm going to put that back. So kerning is kind of a letter by letter. And then tracking, you can see here as I drag it up, so at 200, it spreads way out. And then if I do a negative 100, the type squishes in right there. So you can type in your own numbers here. I'll do -5 for this one. And this is kind of how you manipulate that. Under the properties window, or over here, I can change the color of the typeface right here. So I can change the color there. I can also go to swatches and then click on a swatch and it'll update for me right there. And let's see here. I'm gonna put the text on a new layer here. So I'm just gonna click it and then drag it to this new layer that I created. I created the new layer by pressing that plus button there. I'm gonna lock my background here. And so this is, you know, that's the basics of how you kind of manipulate text and write it out here. But one step that's going to be really important to learn here, and this is so that you can customize your font, particularly if you're working on a logo for a brand. A lot of times you're going to want to get in there and customize the shapes, things like that. Additionally, if you try to send your Illustrator file to somebody, like this as it is, where I just wrote something in and did the text here, I would also need to send that other person this typeface Kiona here in order for them to see this correctly. And a lot of the times you'll find that that's not the case. And so what we need to do is we need to turn these essentially into shapes rather than a typeface here so that it can be shared with people. So I'm going to press Command C and then Shift Command and V, and you can see that it duplicated it right in place right there. And I like just keeping a backup. And I turned the visibility of the backup off. I just have it in my back pocket there. And so I'm going to select this duplicate here and click right there to make it active. And if you go to Type and then create outlines right there, this is the step that you want to do here. So it's Type and then Create Outlines. And you can see there it changed. It made a group in our layer menu, but you can see this box also changed in here. And so you can see that it turns the type into shapes. And if I expand the group out, you can see we have each letter showing up as its own sublayer right here. And so if I want to, I can go in, press A, and, you know, give this like a soft edge like that. You know, I can go into the E, and if I wanted to, you know, expand it up, you know, just make changes to your type here. You can customize it using this technique here. And so it's in a group right now. A lot of times that'll be good. You'll want it in a group. And just in case if you don't want it in a group, you can just go to Object and then Ungroup right there. And if you keep your eye on the layer menu, it'll expand out. And sometimes that can just help with making selections and things like that. And just so that it's kind of further clarified here, I'm just going to make one more shape here. And I might go press P and then minus and delete this. I'm just going to make a triangle that kind of fits in the top corner here. And so I made a rectangle. I press P and then minus for this tool right here, and just subtracted one of the corners to get myself a triangle here. And I will align that on the left. And then by pressing under Properties and Align, so that button aligns it to the left. And then if I press this button, it'll align it vertically to the top. So you can get kind of like if you want any kind of shape that kind of hugs the border like that, you can do that. I can press A and drag this in to kind of change the proportions to something else if I want. And remember here, if I want to change the color of that, I can click on Swatches and mess around with different colors here. So let me do that, and then I'm going to make one more shape here just to make this recognizable when we bring this into Photoshop and map it onto the document here. So we have this box here, and I will align this horizontally right there. And so we got this one. So this will be the front, and so I can go to File, Save As, and I'm just going to save this right on my desktop. So I'll save it as an Illustrator file, so a .ai file, just so I can go back and edit it if I want to. But I can also go to File, Save As again, and we have these different formats right here. So I'll also make a PDF, which should open a little bit better in Photoshop. I believe in EPS will as well. So I'll save it this way, and all the defaults should be fine there. And let's see here. So we also have the side of the box. And so that brings me to the next point. We could either make the side of the box by going to File, New, and then creating a whole new document here, which would have the same height, but I believe the width would be 540 on this one. And I can press create right there. And so now we have two documents right here that we can kind of tab between right here. And so that's a perfectly fine way of working here. Another thing I can do is I can use artboards. And so with artboards, I can, basically what an artboard is we have our document here, and it's a way of getting multiple pages of that you can work with on the same document that you can work on here. And so that's another way you can work on this. And for this demo, I'm going to kind of stick with the 540 by 180 when I'm finishing out the demo, but I'm going to continue showing the artboard here. And so let's say that you want the side of this to be an artboard. We can, this is the Artboard tool right here. And so you can click on that. And if you click on the Artboard tool, you can see this four-way arrow shows up as the cursor. And all that does is it just physically, oops, I have a layer locked right there, so that messed that up right there. Can you see that? So I press Edit Undo. Now we'll unlock that. Let's try this one more time. It still gives me that error message. That's because I have a hidden layer on there. So I'll just go ahead and delete that. Don't really need it anymore. So now I can move it around. Okay, so that's only gonna become useful in a minute if you have a bunch of artboards and you're just trying to rearrange them. So to make a new artboard, you can use the Artboard tool by just holding Option right here, and this is kind of your duplicate cursor that shows up right there. If you see that cursor, that means it's about to duplicate, where there's the black and then the white cursor right there. And so I can just drag it and move it out to the side, and I have a duplicate. I can also press Command Z and try that again, where I'll hold Option with the Artboard tool selected right there, click and drag, and if I hold Shift, it'll kind of keep things right in a line right there. And if I want this new artboard to be the side, you can see the dimensions are a little wrong. So to change the proportions of this right here, you'll want to go down to your Artboards window right here. So we have the Artboards tool right here. We have the Artboards window right here. You can see that we have Artboard 1. Let me rename this one. Artboard 2. That's the one we're looking at right now. And so if I click on this artboard, it kind of zooms in on it, which is nice. But I can also, with it selected, and you can tell it's highlighted right now, right there in blue, is if I click right here, I can go down to Artboard Options right here. And here I can resize it. So just to show that one more time, I'm selecting my second artboard, the second page that I just created. It's this 3-line button to the top right. And you'll find this 3-line button to be helpful a lot of times in Illustrator here. And I can make a new artboard if I wanted to. But I will go down to Artboard Options. And here you can see I can change my width from 2175 to 540. Press OK. And even though my layer is way bigger than it, you can see that the artboard underneath it is the right shape here. And also take note that when I made a new artboard, that it duplicate all the layers over there that I had previously had when I make a new artboard, pressing that button right there. So I'm going to hide some of this. Oops. Okay. So to change this to fit the artboard, I can just go, I'm selecting this background shape. So I'll go up to the top right where it has the shape right there. So you can see the width and the height right here. So the height is right, but the width is wrong. So I need to change that to 540 again. And you can see that it goes right to the middle. Just to make sure that it's lined up, I can also just select the box. And if I press align horizontal and then align vertical, we can tell it's now punched entirely into the correct place here. And just to make sure that it's, when I bring this over to Photoshop, I'm just going to make something to distinguish it here. Okay. And I can just go ahead and press File Save here. So let's see here. One thing I want to show here as well is copying this over. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this, make a new layer right there for the side panel right here. You can double click and rename it. Okay, so let's say, for instance, that I want to copy this into a new document right here. I can select this layer. Let me just check. Okay, and if I press Command C, and then I go over to this new tab right here, and I press Command V, you can see here that it duplicates it, but it moves it into the existing layer that was already selected in there. So I'm just going to press Edit Undo here. And you remember, you see here how I named it? So I have side panel, and let's just call this circle and box. And let's say that you have this really well organized. You have like a full character and you want to keep things totally organized here. So if you select this layer, and then if you go down to press this triple line button right here, and then you go to Paste Remember Layers. Now, when I press Command C to copy it, and I go over to this new tab and press Shift Command and V to paste it, it copies it into an identical layer setup that I have here. Oh, that's funny. It typically saves the naming here, so there must be something in my settings I need to change. But it keeps the it at least keeps your layer organization, and is a much cleaner way to copy a design over from one document over to another document here. So again, it's just go down this triple button on the top right of your layers menu, and then you go down to Paste Remember Layers, and that's the, if you have that on, it's kind of the setting that's good for pasting it over to a new document here. So let me just go ahead and save this as the side here. So I'll go to File, Save As. I'm just going to name it Side 1. I'll save an Illustrator file. This is on my desktop, and then I'll also go File, Save, Save File, Save As, and then save another copy as a PDF. Press Save. Defaults are fine. And so let's bring this over into Photoshop. So here's our design in Photoshop. Remember, we have our mockup here, and then we have in that mid group under Working Process and Smart Objects, we have our 3 smart objects. I'm not showing the top here, but just remember that these steps I'm about to show you just do for the top as well. The top is divided into these 2 layers right here, which are, again, the same smart object that's being used. So if I double click on this one, I get the front, and we need to take our Illustrator design and put it on top of this. So I can just go to File, Open, and I need to open up my front panel PDF, and let's see here. It's going to come in a little bit bigger. We have the constrained proportions on though, so I could just type in 2175 here, and you can see my proportions are correct. So now I'll open it up there, and I need to duplicate this onto the smart object. In the smart object, I want to do is layer 13, it looks like, right here. And so I'll right click, duplicate layer, and bring it onto layer 13 PSB. That's our front layer. Press OK. OK. And here we go. So now, if I press File, Save, so again, keep in mind this is the front facing smart object, the one that looked like this before. And I duplicated it on, it came on perfectly in proportion. I'll press File, Save, and now when I go to my front of my mockup, it's loaded up right there. Easy peasy. So let's do the same thing for the side panel. So I can go to File, Open, and choose the side PDF. Open, RGB color. It gave me an error before. Let's see here. I think that's going to be okay though. And so I have the side design that I made in PDF, or in Illustrator. This is the PDF. I need to duplicate this over to, I think it's going to be layer 14 PSB. So this is going to be the side of the box, the smart object for the side of the box here. So I'm just going to go back to the side. And again, if your tabs are starting to get full, if you click on this double arrow, that'll bring you to, that'll pull out a full menu showing you all the documents you have open. So with the side, I'll right click, duplicate layer, and then bring this over to layer 14 PSB, the side smart object. And so now that's updated right there. So I'll go File, Save. And so now you can see that I have the front and the side saved up there. Let's see here. For the top, let me just go ahead and show you. So I'm going to go into Illustrator, and then the top was, I believe the width was 2175, and the height will be 540 again. And press OK. So I believe this will be the right proportions for the top. And if I go to Swatches, I'll have what I need ready here. I'm just going to create a simple fill for this. And I realize I'm pulling from a different swatch library there, but I think it'll be okay just for this demonstration here. So I need to turn off the stroke, and I need to make this the right size. So I go to Shape, then Constraint is off right there, 2175 by 540, and I can align it here by just pressing these buttons right there. It's perfectly in line. And let's say for a second that I want this tab up here to kind of go in that top corner as well over there. I think I can just try this out. So I'll press V, Command C, and then over here I'll press Command V, and let me just turn this into a slightly different color. I might need to put this back. Oh, it's locked. That's oh, it's not locked. Let's see. Let's try this one more time. Okay. This is where using swatches is definitely helpful here. Okay, so I want this to line up. So I believe if I take this shape right here, and then I can go to, if I want to transform it and flip it around, I can go to Object. Let's see here. Oh, Object Transform, and then I can reflect it, and I can do a horizontal reflection, and that's going to bring it the correct direction I want right here. If I want it to go in the corner, I can just left align it and then bottom align it right there. And then hopefully when I bring this onto the Photoshop design, it will stay in proportion here. So I'm going to name this top 1, save an Illustrator file, and then file save as, top 1, make a PDF, and bring this into Photoshop so we can get this top worked out here. So in Photoshop, I'll go to File, Open. I'm going to say open up the PDF that I just opened there for the top. And pixels, what's the width? 2175. Okay. And so now I'm going to duplicate this onto the top. And I believe the top is going to be layer 151 PSB here. And if you're not sure which smart object to duplicate it onto, just go back to the original object, find the smart object that you want, double click it, and then you'll find it here. So layer 151 PSB is what we want. And I'm going to go to the top, right click, I'm going to duplicate the layer and bring it over to layer, bring it over to layer 151 PSB, press OK, OK. And you can see it's updated here, right? So I can just press File, Save. And then on the serial box, you can see that it updates, but right here, I'll have to be a little more tricky with the way that I do this thing. So we have, that's the top smart object, and so I need to do this for the bottom. Oops, looks like I was incorrect. So it looks like the top is actually 2 smart objects. That's my mistake. So I'm going to right click and go to the top again, duplicate this into layer 15 PSB, which is actually the one I was going for here, and press save with layer 1 there. And so now you can see, how that corner is kind of coming in now on that design underneath the box here. And let's see here, I'll need to do some work to get that to line up on that top box right there. So let me turn that visibility back on. It's like pretty close right there. And so let's just say that that kind of looks cool like that, but it's if I want that to be like lined up perfectly here, one thing to keep in mind is that we're in 3 dimensions here, so there's some depth to this top panel right here. So this line should actually be a little bit off from this angle. That might be like a little bit much though. So if I go to layer 151 PSB, this is the correct panel here. So I could just hypothetically just hold down shift, drag that down a little bit. And then for the background layer, I can press I, and then G is the paint bucket tool. Fill that in. So all I did is I kind of just shifted this design down a little bit, and I'll press File, Save, and hopefully, oh yeah, so I did update a little bit, I think. So let me just try that again, just a little bit more. So it's layer 151 PSB. So I'm just going to take this layer, just drag it down a lot just so it's a little more clear what I'm doing here. So the design of this box was originally totally on grid, but you can see I dragged it down. File, save, and hopefully on the serial box you see how I dragged it really far that time. I just wanted to do that just to show you that when I update it over there, it updates over here and keep it from being a little overly subtle. So let me just try this one more time and try to get it into where I actually think it belongs. File, save, close enough for this demo here. So this is almost done. And what I need to do here is, you can see if we circle back to this group right here, working process, at the beginning of this demo I had turned off change object color. And so that's the original color that's in there. And it looks weird that it's white right there. And so what I want to do here is I want to turn that back on. We have 2 more objects here where we're going to need to update this. And so when I double click right here, you can see I have the color picker. And look here, we have this code right there. So let's get the right code and get this color to match up perfectly. So to get that color perfectly, let's just go up to any of these smart objects that I created before. We're going to use the Eyedropper tool, which is how you pick a color in Photoshop. Let me just make this a completely different color so you can see how it changes here. So the Eyedropper tool, I hover it over the color I want and then click, and you can see right there that the color updates to match that color. I can double click on it and we get what's called the hex code right here. So I can drag and select it and press Command C, and then go back to my serial box. And so we have our colors right here. So I just need to double click on this one, and I'll press Command V to paste that code, and it matches. So same thing here, double click on that color right there, drag and select there, Command V, paste, and now all of our box matches up here. And we got something that's finished. And so yeah, at this point we can just save our document. I go to File, Save As. I'll save this on my desktop too. I'll call this I don't know, let's see, demo 01 PSD. So I'm going to save it as a PSD so that I have a file that has all my layers in it, so I can continue to manipulate things. We can kind of go through here and kind of change some of the shading and light effects, although I kind of like the defaults as they are. And if you want to turn this into a PDF, something like that, you might want to save it as a JPEG as well. And to do that, remember, you go to, instead of File, Save As, you go File, Save a Copy. And we can save a lot more formats this way. So again, the reason they do File, Save a Copy is so that you can have some more compressed options available to you here. And yeah, so that is how you take your design and map it onto the box here. Additionally, in this video, we went over artboards and kind of introduced that concept here, and as well as the type tool, which was shown right here, and how you can create outlines to kind of set your type in stone and kind of further adjust it letter by letter right there.